You think this is revenge? No, this is the receipt. I said that with a steady voice, while the man across from me finally realized the game was over and I had been the one keeping score all along. But to understand how I got there, you need to know what they took from me and what I took back. My name is Jake Rayburn. I'm 46 years old, a father of two, former Army intelligence officer for 15 years, and founder of Ironclad Security Solutions. And this is the story of how the woman I trusted with my heart and the man I once saved in Afghanistan tried to erase me from my own life. 6 months earlier, the ambush came on a Tuesday morning. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed with a text from my wife, Sophia. Divorce papers are being served today. I'm staying with Kyle. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Not a phone call. Not a conversation. Just a tactical strike designed for maximum damage with minimum warning. I sat there staring at the screen while my coffee went cold. Sophia Caldwell, my wife of 9 years. The woman who used to trace the scar on my shoulder from Kandahar and tell me she was proud of what I'd sacrificed for our country. Kyle Brennan, my business partner and the man whose life I'd saved when that IED flipped our Humvee outside Kabul. The shock didn't hit like an explosion. It was more like that ringing silence after the blast, when your ears are trying to figure out if you're still alive. What made it worse was the timing. That same morning, Kyle had called an emergency board meeting about restructuring company leadership for optimal efficiency. Corporate speak for a hostile takeover. I'd spent 15 years reading enemy patterns, tracking their movements, predicting their next strike. How had I missed this? The answer came when I started digging. And when I say digging, I mean using every skill the Army taught me about gathering intelligence. Because that's what this was, warfare. I started with their phones. Not hacking, just checking the phone records on our shared family plan. What I found made my blood run cold. 347 text messages between Sophia and Kyle over the past 8 months. Calls that lasted hours, always when I was traveling for business or at Emma and Lucas's school events. They'd been planning this since last Christmas. I pulled the credit card statements next. Luxury hotels during my business trips. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A jewelry store receipt for a bracelet I'd never seen Sophia wear. All charged to our joint account while she was telling me we needed to tighten our budget. But the worst part was finding her phone recordings, hidden in a folder labeled insurance. 23 audio files of me during my worst moments. PTSD episodes from my deployment days when the nightmares got bad and I'd wake up disoriented. She'd recorded me at my most vulnerable, planning to use my service-related trauma as evidence that I was mentally unstable and unfit for custody. My hands shook for the first time since Kandahar. That evening, I sat Emma and Lucas down for what I thought would be a normal conversation about Mommy and Daddy having some problems. Instead, 10-year-old Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes and asked, "Why don't you love us anymore, Daddy?" I felt like I'd been shot. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Mommy said you love your soldier friends more than us. She said that's why you're always working and why you get angry sometimes." 8-year-old Lucas nodded solemnly. "She said you might have to go away because you're sick from the war." That's when the soldier in me took over completely. I tucked them in that night with extra hugs and promises that Daddy was going to make everything okay. Then I went to my office and started building a case file like I was tracking enemy combatants. First call went to Master Sergeant Ray Torres, now a federal investigator specializing in corruption cases. We'd served 2 tours together, and he owed me his life from a firefight in Helmand Province. "Jake, what's wrong, brother?" Ray could hear the mission tone in my voice. "I need to ask you about a hypothetical situation involving judicial corruption." How hypothetical are we talking? The kind that might need federal attention if someone had the right evidence. Ray was quiet for a moment. "You got something?" "Working on it. But Ray, this involves my kids." "Say no more. Whatever you need." That's what real brotherhood looks like. Not the fake version Kyle had been selling me. Next, I called Staff Sergeant Danny Sullivan, my head of security at Ironclad. He'd been one of my soldiers in Iraq, and I'd mentored him when he got out of the service. "Danny, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it quietly." "Yes, sir. What's the mission?" "Kyle Brennan has been accessing company files he shouldn't have access to. I need to know what he's been copying and where it's going." "Roger that, boss." "How deep do you want me to dig?" "All the way to China, if that's where the trail leads." Danny found it in 2 days. Kyle had been systematically copying our client database, security protocols, and financial records to a server registered under a shell company in the Cayman Islands. He wasn't just planning to leave, he was planning to steal everything and start over with our clients and our methods. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what Danny found in Kyle's email drafts. Messages to potential clients bad-mouthing me personally. Jake has control issues from the war. His PTSD makes him unpredictable in high-stress situations. The company would be more stable under new leadership. He was turning my service, the years I'd spent protecting this country, into a character flaw, using the bond we'd formed in combat as ammunition against me. I'd saved this man's life, made him my partner, trusted him with everything I'd built, and he was twisting that sacrifice into evidence that I was damaged goods. That night I called Kyle directly. "We need to talk," I said. "Jake, look, I know this is hard, but Sophia and I cut the bullshit, Kyle. I know about the Cayman account. I know about the client list. I know you've been planning this since Christmas." Silence. "You want to steal my wife? Fine. You want to destroy my family? We'll see about that. But you will not steal my company. You will not use my service record against me. And you will not turn my sacrifice into your profit. Jake, you're being paranoid." This is exactly the kind of thinking that I hung up. The time for talking was over. What Kyle and Sophia didn't know was that Sophia's mother, Judge Patricia Caldwell, had a problem. A big one. It took me 3 weeks of digging through public records, newspaper archives, and court filings to piece it together. 15 years ago, Judge Caldwell's nephew had been driving drunk when he slammed into a family of 4 at a school crossing. Killed all of them. Parents and 2 young kids, immigrants who'd been in the country legally for 6 years. The case should have been straightforward. Vehicular homicide, DUI, multiple counts. Instead, it disappeared. Evidence got lost. Witnesses became unreliable. The prosecutor suddenly developed concerns about procedural issues. I found the money trail, campaign contributions from Charles Caldwell, the judge's husband and Sophia's father, to the district attorney's campaign fund. Payments made through 3 different shell companies, but all traced back to Caldwell Construction. Judge Patricia Caldwell hadn't just buried one case. She'd been doing it for years. Wealthy families with problems called her office. Money changed hands. Problems went away. And now she was planning to fast-track Sophia's custody case. I had everything I needed. Phone records proving the affair and conspiracy. Financial records showing Kyle's theft. Evidence of systematic judicial corruption going back over a decade. But I didn't move yet. In military intelligence, timing is everything. Strike too early and you warn the enemy. Strike too late and you lose the advantage. I waited for them to make the first move. It came in the form of a court filing. Sophia was requesting emergency custody, claiming I was mentally unstable due to combat-related PTSD and potentially dangerous to the children due to increasing paranoid behavior. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. Judge Patricia Caldwell presiding. They thought they had me cornered. A combat veteran with PTSD displaying paranoid behavior by investigating his own wife. The narrative was perfect. The fix was in. That's when I called my final ally, Attorney Michelle Grant. She specialized in family law and had a reputation for destroying corrupt cases. "Ms. Grant, I need representation in a custody case. Mr. Rayburn, I've reviewed the initial filings. I have to ask, have you been diagnosed with PTSD? "Yes, ma'am. I've been in therapy since my discharge. I have documentation showing I've been compliant with all treatment recommendations and have never posed a danger to my children or anyone else." "Good. What else do you have?" "Evidence that this case is being orchestrated by people who think they're above the law." I met Michelle at her office that Friday and laid out everything. The phone records, the financial evidence, Kyle's corporate theft, Judge Caldwell's history of corruption. Michelle's eyes got wider with each folder I opened. "Jesus Christ, Jake. You don't have a custody case. You have a federal investigation. I have both, and I need to win the first one to protect my kids." "We'll win, but this goes way beyond your family. You're sitting on evidence of systematic corruption." "I know. That's why I'm bringing it to you first, properly, through legal channels. I want to win the right way." Monday morning, we walked into Judge Caldwell's courtroom. Sophia sat with her lawyer, looking confident. Kyle was there too, probably expecting to testify about my unstable behavior. Judge Caldwell took her seat with that smile she probably thought looked impartial. In reality, it looked like a shark that had already tasted blood. "Your Honor," Michelle stood up, "before we begin, I'd like to submit additional evidence that's relevant to this case." "What kind of evidence, counselor?" Michelle handed a thick folder to the bailiff. "Phone records, financial documents, and communication logs that demonstrate this custody filing is part of a broader conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruct justice." Judge Caldwell's face went white. "I also have a letter here from the FBI's Public Corruption Unit expressing their interest in this case and requesting that all proceedings be postponed pending their investigation." The courtroom went dead silent. Sophia's lawyer was frantically flipping through the evidence folder. Kyle looked like he was about to vomit. Judge Caldwell was staring at me like I was a ghost. Your Honor, Michelle continued, my client is requesting full custody of his children to be removed immediately from the care of a mother who has demonstrated willingness to use them as weapons in a criminal conspiracy. This is outrageous! Sophia's lawyer stood up. These accusations are documented, Michelle cut him off. With phone records, bank statements, and video surveillance. Would you like me to play the hotel security footage for the court? That's when I stood up and looked directly at Kyle. You want to know the difference between real brothers and fake ones? Real brothers don't abandon each other when the fighting gets tough. They don't use your worst moments against you. And they sure as hell don't try to steal everything you built while you're grieving what you thought was your marriage. Kyle couldn't meet my eyes. I turned to Sophia. You recorded my nightmares. You used my service to our country as evidence that I was unfit to be a father. You told our children I didn't love them. There's a special place in hell for people who weaponize a parent's love for their kids. Finally, I looked at Judge Caldwell. Your Honor, I spent 15 years defending this country because I believed in justice. Real justice. The kind where evidence matters more than money, where truth wins out over corruption, where protecting the innocent is more important than protecting the powerful. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a plain white envelope. This contains copies of every document my attorney just submitted, plus about 50 more pages detailing 15 years of cases that mysteriously disappeared from your docket. Cases where money changed hands and justice got buried. I placed the envelope on the table in front of me. You think this is revenge? No, this is the receipt. Every lie you told, every betrayal you planned, every time you used my love for my family as a weapon against them, I kept track. And now the bill is due. Judge Caldwell recused herself from the case within an hour. The emergency hearing was postponed. By Wednesday, Kyle had emptied the Cayman account and fled to what he thought was a non-extradition country. He was wrong. Ray Torres had friends in a lot of places. 3 months later, Kyle was arrested at a resort in Barbados and extradited back to the United States. Federal fraud charges, asset forfeiture, the whole package. He's currently serving 8 years in federal prison and will never work in security again. The military community has a long memory for people who betray their battle buddies. Judge Caldwell lasted 2 weeks after the FBI raided her office. The corruption investigation found evidence of 12 cases she'd buried over 15 years, including that family killed by her nephew. She resigned in disgrace, lost her pension, and is currently facing federal charges. 3 victim families have filed civil suits. Her legal legacy is completely destroyed. Sophia fought the custody change for exactly 6 days. Once she realized her mother couldn't protect her anymore and Kyle had abandoned her with a mountain of debt, she signed over full custody of Emma and Lucas. She moved to a smaller town 2 hours away and took a job at a discount real estate agency. The luxury lifestyle, the social circle, the designer clothes, all of it disappeared overnight. Emma and Lucas adjusted faster than I expected. Kids have a way of sensing who really has their back. When Emma asked me why Mommy had lied about me not loving them, I told her the truth. Sometimes grown-ups make very bad choices when they're scared or angry. Your mom was scared that Daddy would find out about the things she was doing wrong, so she tried to make you scared of me too. But that's not fair, Lucas said, his 8-year-old sense of justice outraged. No, buddy, it's not fair. But that's why Daddy fought so hard to make sure you and Emma could stay with me. Because protecting you is the most important job I'll ever have. More important than the army? Emma asked. Much more important. Soldiers protect their country. Daddies protect their families. You two are my most important mission. We started new traditions after that. Saturday morning pancakes became a sacred ritual. Emma learned to make coffee. Terrible coffee, but I drank every drop. Lucas and I built a treehouse in the backyard. Just the two of us working with our hands and talking through problems. They asked questions, of course. Kids need to understand their world. Will Mommy try to take us away again? Emma wanted to know. No, sweetheart. The judge said you get to stay with Daddy permanently. Mommy can visit sometimes, but only when there's another grown-up there to make sure everyone stays safe. Will Uncle Kyle come back? Uncle Kyle isn't really our family anymore. He made choices that hurt us, so he can't be around us anymore. They accepted this with the resilience that children have when they feel secure. They knew I'd fought for them and won. They knew they were safe. The business not only survived, it thrived. Word spread through the corporate world about how I'd handled the situation. Companies wanted to work with someone who had that kind of integrity under pressure. We heard about what you went through, the CEO of Morrison Industries told me during our contract meeting. Anyone who fights that hard for his family will fight that hard for his clients. Ironclad security grew by 300% in the following year. We hired 12 new employees, all of them veterans. Danny Sullivan became my operations director. Ray Torres joined us part-time as a federal liaison consultant. The company culture changed too. We instituted a policy. No employee would ever face personal crisis alone. Family emergencies, financial troubles, health scares. We took care of our people the way military units take care of their soldiers. This is how you build loyalty, I told a group of business school students who came to hear me speak about leadership. You don't demand loyalty. You earn it by standing by your people when they need you most. I became a speaker on business ethics and family values. Turned out there were a lot of people who wanted to hear from someone who'd won the right way. Corporate conferences, veteran events, fathers groups, anywhere men needed to hear that doing the right thing was worth the cost. The message was always the same. Your integrity is the one thing nobody can take from you, but it's also the one thing you can give away. Choose carefully who deserves that gift. These days, I wake up at 5 a.m. for PT, make breakfast for my kids, and go to work knowing that every client trusts me because I've proven I keep my word even when it costs me everything. Ray Torres still calls every few weeks to check in. Danny Sullivan runs my security team like the precision military operation it's always been. We hire a lot of veterans now, people who understand that some things are worth fighting for. I never remarried. Haven't even dated seriously. After what I went through, I'm in no hurry to trust someone with that much power over my life again. Maybe someday, but for now, Emma and Lucas need to know they can count on their dad completely. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what happened to Sophia, Kyle, and Judge Caldwell. If I think the punishment fit the crime, here's what I tell them. They thought they could charge me for the crime of trusting them. But every lie they told, every betrayal they planned, every time they used my love against me, I kept the receipts. And when the bill came due, they found out they couldn't afford what they owed. I didn't destroy them. I just opened the door and let the truth walk out on its own. Because that's what justice looks like when you do it right. Not revenge, not getting even, not making them pay. Just letting the consequences of their actions catch up with them while you protect what matters most. Emma's playing softball now, and Lucas is learning guitar. They both hug me when I come home from work, and they tell me about their day over dinner. They sleep peacefully in their beds, knowing their dad fought for them and won. That's worth more than any revenge could ever be. Some people think I got lucky, that things worked out because I had military training and knew how to investigate. But here's the real truth. I won because I never stopped being a father first. Everything I did was about protecting Emma and Lucas. The evidence, the legal strategy, the careful timing, all of it was just a dad making sure his kids would be safe and know they were loved. Kyle thought our brotherhood in Afghanistan gave him permission to steal from me. Sophia thought my PTSD made me an easy target. Judge Caldwell thought her position made her untouchable. They all forgot the most important thing about a soldier. We don't leave anyone behind, especially our own children. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to make sure my kids knew their father would never stop fighting for them. And now they do. You think this is revenge? No, this is the receipt, and it's paid in full.